guys, I'm your host KatFTWynn, and I'm here with
River.
And we're continuing on with Ruby, Chapter 6. So let us continue.
Let us continue. The large figure stands in the doorway, blocking Tom and Ruby's exit.
Attempt to talk with Ace. Ask what he wants.
The figure enters the room, squeezing through the doorway. Ruby attempts to greet the figure, asking about its intentions, its identity. The figure does not speak.
Tom, shove dummy on wheels into Ace.
The dummy is bolted down on a pivot.
Give Ace Red's hand.
Ruby offers the dismembered hand. The figure doesn't seem to want it. The figure approaches and reaches for Ruby.
Tom, pull Ruby back. Enter defensive stance. Ruby, attempt to dodge it. Brandish scalpel. Scalpel.
Ruby and Tom are not going without a fight.
Evade as much as possible. Go for the legs and get the hell out of ASAP.
The figure lunges at Ruby, who ducks out of the way of its massive arms. Tom dodges around.
Try the crowbar to his knees.
Ruby bolts from the room while Tom drives the sharp end of the crowbar into the figure's leg.
Get out of there now, Tom.
Tom runs. The giant figure seems unfazed.
Flee through the Z-hatch.
Tom follows Ruby to the Z-hatch. The figure is right behind him. Ruby helps Tom as he dives through the hatch.
It's not like the thing's going to come through in the very first second.
There is a horrible sound of wrenching metal. Large white hands are tearing the Z-hatch open.
Climb pipe.
Ruby easily clambers up the pipe with her girlish figure. Tom follows behind her. Tom and Ruby ascend the narrow pipe, desperately clinging to the rusty walls.
Very much fixed.
Tom and Ruby emerge from the pipe after a long and winding climb. They feel very turned around. They emerge in a new place they have never seen before.
Look at the mirror, or look at the monitor. Look at the monitor only to see static, then examine everything else.
A large, shadowy face stares back.
Ask the face to identify itself.
Ruby asks the face who it is. The screen goes to static. Ruby and Tom move on to explore the room. This room is full of broken science equipment, including shattered beakers and tubes, a broken table in the southeast corner, and lots of spilled liquid. The room smells of chemical vapors. Tom can see something vaguely through the steel vent, but it's too sturdy to bash down by brute force. There are scraps and tatters of cloth at Tom's feet. They look like the remnants of a lab coat. By a very large cabinet, which is locked with a chain and padlock, Ruby finds a severed foot on the ground, with minimal blood.
Anyone got any idea whose body parts we keep finding? I'm guessing it's Dracula. Ruby, kneel with blue crystal.
The door has no visible lock, but is wired to the monitor. Ruby pockets the heavy gloves she finds on the floor. Also of note in this room is the access hatch leading down, which is secured in place with some sort of staff.
Take staff.
Ruby takes the odd staff. It's made of some kind of green-stained wood.
What's that on top of the cabinet?
Tom climbs up and takes the empty syringe.
Attempt to pick cabinet lock with scalpel.
Don't be silly. Neither Tom nor Ruby is crafty enough to know how to pick locks. Tom removes the medical poster on the wall and discovers a small recess with a sheaf of papers inside. He takes the papers and prepares to read them. Ruby examines the vent. There are tiny warnings that indicate it is used to channel gaseous chemicals, and that gas masks should be used when operating the chemical pump, which is nowhere to be found. While Tom prepares to read the note, Ruby looks through the hatch to the familiar lower level. Tom begins to read the sheaf of papers. Red's Journal, October 3rd. Traditional treatments show no progress. Yesterday, Subject 5, aka Tom, has crippled his hands in an accident involving the accidental operation of the Z-hatch in the newly excavated brig room. If these events continue, our situation will only deteriorate further. F has begun to reconsider my proposal of experimental treatments. If things do not improve, I will speak to the board. At this point, everyone is desperate for a solution. Red's Journal, October 7th. Today, when I was visiting some subjects in the patient brick room, I swear I heard whispered voices. This is the second time. F says the board has approved my recommended treatments. They begin immediately. Red's Journal, October 27th. And things were going so well. What happened today changes everything. Everything that happened since the new treatment started. I had hoped the death of patient number 1 could be overlooked. That is no longer an option. I know what must be done. I do not welcome it. Red's Journal, October number 29th. The deed is done. May God forgive me.
Go down the hatch. Use access card on case.
Tom and Ruby uneasily put away the notes, unsure quite what to make of them, especially the last 2 entries. They head down the hatch into the hallway below. Tom prepares to use the access card he got from the hole in the wall below. As Tom feeds the access card into the slot, the glass cover on the display stand descends, revealing the statuette and the severed finger.
Use finger on medical box thing.
Ruby gives Tom the first aid kit, which Tom unlocks with the severed finger. He empties its contents, which turn out to be a pair of wire cutters, a roll of gauze, and a strange disc of green dyed wood. It looks like it was broken off of something.
Combine the disc with the staff.
Ruby fits the 2 pieces of greenish wood together into an odd staff.
Tom, swipe the card on the case again to close it and shut away the fetus statue.
Tom reseals the display case.
Wrap up Tom's eye with the gauze, if he's willing.
Ruby uses the gauze and tattered cloth to bandage Tom's eye.
Tom's turn for pirate impression. Tom, arg. Cut the barbed wire downstairs with the wire cutters.
Tom and Ruby go back downstairs, wary of any potential aggressors. Tom uses the wire cutters on the barbed wire, which is tangled so tightly around the shutters. Behind the metal shutters is some sort of cabinet shelf for cafeteria food. What's inside is not food.
Oh god. Sven? Is that Sven? Use wire cutters to take the card from her maw.
Tom carefully removes the card from the jaws of the severed head. Tom pockets the high-clearance access card. The large figure appears in the doorway again. He appears armed.
Run upstairs. Use the card on the reader at the high security door.
Tom runs to use the high-clearance access card on the door. Ruby and Tom take this opportunity to mentally review their respective inventories. The large figure appears in the doorway. Tom is still opening the door.
The first aid kit. We emptied it. Toss it at the glass case as we leave.
Ruby hurls the empty case as Tom finally gets the door open and rushes through. The empty first aid kit smashes the glass on the security-protected display case. Ruby rushes through the door after Tom as a lethal trap springs from the mechanical guts of the display case. Ruby and Tom quickly shut the door behind them and observe the new room.
Examine jar. Examine note on wall.
Ruby inspects the jar. Inside, some sort of very strange, fleshy growth is suspended in some kind of solution. It is covered in what looks like veins and knotted muscle. Tom steps over a chasm in the floor to approach the clipboard hanging on the wall.
Look down what lies below.
It would appear to be the room Ruby started in when she first climbed out of her locker. Tom grabs the clipboard and readies for yet another expository cutscene. Notice, November 23rd. Subject 6 has been moved to isolated containment in Upper Lab B due to increasingly unpredictable and violent behavior. Please notify someone if you need to make contact with Subject 6. All non-medical staff is advised to avoid Lab B at all costs. Highest priority hazard. Attention all staff attending subject cells. Following the events of November 1st, Diagnostic Technician Red will be assigned to cell number 6. Please note that subject number 6 has already been relocated to the brig for holding. The staff would also like to announce that until further notice, ACE will be referred to on these documents as ? The Action Committee is still deciding whether it is more economical to change his name or assign the Subject Cells Committee a font capable of properly reproducing that stupid symbol. Tom gets the feeling there was some interdepartmental feuding going on here. Tom tries locker number 5, but the lock, while busted, is jammed. It'll take a bit of force to rip open. Ruby, meanwhile, examines the clipboard after Tom.
First, check the goddamn wiring.
Ruby and Tom consult each other on the wiring, but given the construction of the massive piece of machinery, they assume the wires and tubes are for normal operation. It does not appear booby-trapped as far as they can tell.
Someone send for the bludgeony cane shovel.
Ruby lends Tom her bludgeony cane shovel. Tom promises to give it right back.
Ruby, step away from that chasm. Something's gonna grab your ankles.
Ruby retreats a safe distance from the hole. Tom springs the door open with a loud metallic rattle. Locker number 5 is empty. Don't trust 7. However, something is scrawled onto the door in Tom's handwriting. Tom closes the locker quickly. Ruby asks if Tom found anything useful inside.
Tom, that bitch is out to get you. Elect to keep the bludgeony cane shovel. She would just use it to hurt you, Tom. Tom, ignore that voice. She promised you a date, remember? Fuck Anonive. Tom, be on your guard. You don't know this girl. She got you out of the cage and it's all been downhill since then. The zombie came out of nowhere after she left. She poisoned you. That guy was after her. Sure, you might be able to nail her, but just be careful. You don't know that text was planted. That was from pre-amnesia. It's possible that Ruby has done something to hurt Tom before, but she wouldn't do anything to him anymore. They're pals now. You don't know that her memory isn't just suppressed. We already know that she is transforming.
She also wants to try opening locker number 6 with the cane device.
You know who else were pals? Judas and Jesus, Horus and the Emperor, Julius and Brutus. They were all pals. Superman and Jimmy Olsen. Oh my god, run away. Tell Ruby about the writing, discuss about it openly, throw around some theories, then move on to locker 6. Remember the poisoned fish? Look, so far Ruby and Tom have saved each other several times. Compare this at two random reports and writings on the wall, which are at most unreliable.
Ruby opens cell number 6 by setting the odd staff into the carved recess on the front of it.
Uh-oh, don't listen to it, Tom. She's trustworthy, and you love her. That's right, Tom. Remember the fish? Remember what depth perception was like? That eye sure smarts, don't it? And exactly who put a bandage on it, huh? The flock that could not work together are sure still trapped in hell. No secrets. Tom, didn't that kiss mean anything? Are you going to dismiss it because of some writings on the wall?
Inside, there was a large electrical switch labeled 2.
Flip switch.
Ruby flips the switch, but nothing seems to happen. Meanwhile, Tom examines the button on the wall. Should Tom push the shiny button? I wonder what the players will have to say.
Push the button after Ruby is away from the lockers.
Tom waits for Ruby to step away from the cells before pressing the button. A panel opens up in the wall, revealing a pneumatic tube. A severed hand falls out of the pneumatic tube.
What the? I can explain that, really. Well, okay, I got nothing. Take hand back down to scanner.
Tom grabs the severed hand. Might as well get going. This could be bad. So far, so good. Tom and Ruby return to the room with a hand scanner.
Oh, okay, that scared me again. Use hand. Watch cutscene.
Tom scans the severed hand and begins the cutscene as video playback initializes. User login F. Processing data. Verifying. Video playback activated. October 27th.
October 27th, 2 days before Ruby's accident, quote unquote. The day that Red said everything changed.
Wait, go back. Keep going. Oh, okay.
Oh, question mark too. Why so serious, Red? Just kidding. Tom, that pussy better be worth it. Make him smile from ear to ear.
I thought they skipped a frame. Never mind. It would appear that there is more than one. It would appear there is more than one video queued up. User login F. Stream number 2, November 8th.
Tom, hug Ruby with shovel cane. It's time to start Tom Quest. I don't like where this is going. Oh yeah, yes. Why did F record hot Ruby Tom prawn? Oh fuck. Weaver, don't do it. Fuck. No. Love is dead. That's some hymen.
The video finally ends. Tom backs away, clutching the cane shovel he forgot to return. He seems angry. He also seems very scared.
Dun dun dun! You guys will see what happens in chapter 7. So, keep winning at life, guys.
Bye.
Bye!